Greetings and salutations, comrades. Hope this finds you well. Quick shout out to INN Indie News Network, which I am a founding member of. Lots of good things to come, so definitely follow INN on all of the social media. So this is a pretty interesting article at Mint Press News by Alan McLeod. Highly recommend both Alan McLeod and Mint Press News in general. They do an excellent job of covering a lot of stories that the mainstream media doesn't, and they do it from a kind of leftist, anti-imperialist perspective, which is obviously super important. And this particular story is about Bill Gates, the super, villain himself, right? How Bill Gates has donated $319 million to media outlets. And of course, these same media outlets that he, has donated this massive amount of money to have given him, rave reviews, written, very, laudatory, positive pieces about him and, his ventures. And, we've seen during the pandemic that, all of these mainstream media outlets have had, Bill Gates on as some type of expert on, vaccines, or portraying him as being some expert on, issues of public health, even though he has no type of professional background or training in that. But just so happens he's given these, mainstream media corporations, whether it be, TV or print or even outlets overseas, etc., massive amounts of money. So no wonder that they're, giving him this great praise and, adulation, right? Not to mention, I might even do another video on this, that he's also the largest private owner of farmland in the United States. And he even said himself he doesn't do that, out of trying to create, sustainable growing practices, or, supporting organic agriculture, or small, farmers trying to get by, doing it the right way, the sustainable way, is just a profit-making venture for him. So let's see. So look at this. After sorting over 30,000 individual grants, I mean, that is insane, the amount of work that Mint Press and Al McLeod put into this. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has made over $300 million worth of donations to fund media projects. Look at this. CNN, NBC, NPR, PBS, The Atlantic, myriad of influential foreign orgs, BBC, Guardian, Financial Times, Daily Telegraph in the UK, prominent European newspapers such as Le Monde, France, Der Spiegel, Germany, El País, Spain, as well as big global broadcasters like Al Jazeera. Look, there we go. NPR, almost 25 million. The Guardian, almost 13 million. Cascade Public Radio, Conversation, Univision, Der Spiegel, Education Week, NBC Universal, Le Monde, El País, BBC, CNN, KCET, Daily Telegraph, UK. Look at that. Atlantic, Minnesota Public Radio, Al Jazeera, ProPublica, Crosscut, Classical 98.1, the local classical music station up here in my neck of the woods, PBS, Business Day, National Journal. I mean, look at that. KUW, another local station up here. Gates has donated $3.6 million towards CNN reporting on gender equality. He's given money to BBC Action, MTV Staying Alive Foundation, New York Times. Okay, New York Times, and then we'll see later the positive coverage that they've been giving Bill Gates. The New York Times, who has, again, received a massive amount of money. And then all those different those centers, Bureau of Investigative Journalism, Foundation Euractiv Politek, Mississippi Center for Investigative Reporting. Let's see, in all these different consortiums. And then to the instruction. So Seattle University, Aftermath Project, Johns Hopkins, University of California, Berkeley, Rhodes University, South Africa, Media projects, European Journalism Center, World University Service of Canada, Well Told Story Limited, the Sesame Workshop. Look, I mean, just the tentacles of Gates and the foundation just are just so widespread. It's almost beyond belief, but it's not, because when people like Gates and the billionaire class have this amount of wealth, they're able to spread their influence around the globe and sometimes become more powerful than actual states, right? So it's actually more, as Alan McLeod points out there, right? Low profile, long tentacles indeed. Yeah, then you have, Bezos buying the Washington Post for $250 million. Despite flying more under the radar, Gates and his companies have amassed considerable influence in media. We already rely on Microsoft-owned products for communication: Skype, Hotmail, social media, LinkedIn, entertainment, Microsoft Xbox. Let's see. Not only that, Microsoft owns stakes in media giants such as Comcast, AT&T, and the MS and MSE stands for Microsoft. Wow, look at that. Media gatekeepers. The Gates Foundation is underwriting a significant chunk of our media ecosystem, leads to serious problems with objectivity. The foundation's grants to media orgs raise obvious conflict of interest questions. How can reporting be unbiased when a major player holds the purse? It obviously can't. Like, that's a rhetorical question, right? Wrote Gates' local Seattle Times in 2011. This was before the newspaper accepted Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation money to fund its education lab section. Schwab's research has found that this conflict of interest goes right into the very top. Two New York Times columnists have been writing glowingly about the Gates Foundation for years without disclosing that they also work for a group, the Solutions Journalism Network, that is shown above, who received over $7 million from the tech billionaire charity. Okay, you see how it works? You get this funding, $7 million in this case, and these journalists more than ready and willing to write these glowing puff pieces about Gates and the foundation. Look at that. Coincidence? Of course fucking not, right? Earlier this year, Schwab also declined to co-report on a story about COVAX for the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, suspecting that the money Gates had been pumping into the outlet will make it impossible to accurately report on the subject so close to Gates' heart. Sure enough, when the article was published last month, it appeared the assertion that Gates had little to do with COVAX's failure, mirroring the foundation's stance and quoting them throughout. Only at the very end of the more than 5,000 word story did reveal the organization it was defending was paying the wages for its staff. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Again, this isn't surprising, but this is the problem with corporate media. They are not independent in any sense of the word. They're bought and paid for by the capitalist class, and also, they're beholden to the state, to the U.S. empire, to uphold capitalism, imperialism, and white supremacy, right? Then we have the bullshit with, the vaccine. Quite aside from the COVAX fiasco, he pressured Oxford University not to make its publicly funded vaccine open source and available to all for free because he wanted his buddies in the pharmaceutical industry to be able to profit off of people suffering, right? But instead to partner with private company AstraZeneca, a decision that meant that those who could not pay were blocked from using it. That Gates has over 100 donations to the university, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars, likely played some role in the decision. So disgusting. To this day, fewer than 5% of the people in low-income countries have received even one dose of COVID vaccine. The death toll from this is immense. So there's fucking Gates, dude. In most coverage, Gates donations are broadly presented as altruistic gestures. Yeah, of course. Yet many pointed to the inherent flaws of this model, noting that allowing billionaires to decide what they do with their money allows them to set the public agenda, giving them enormous power over society. Quote, philanthropy can and is being used deliberately to divert attention away from different forms of economic exploitation that underpin global equality today, said Lindsay McGooey, professor of sociology at the University of Essex, UK. 100%. Point well taken. So there you go again. Like that shouldn't be shocking to anyone that Bill Gates and his foundation have donated this massive sum of money, 319 million. But as Alan McLeod points out, numbers obviously much higher than that, and using it to peddle influence to these different media outlets. And there's a number of examples in there, like the AstraZeneca debacle about how he pressured Oxford University to make sure that vaccine technology wouldn't be open source because he wanted his buddies in the pharmaceutical industry to profit from it. And he's donated a massive amount of money to Oxford. Or those New York Times reporters who worked for that media organization that was funded by Bill Gates. And of course, they did a nice puff piece about Gates and his foundation. So that's why it's so important to actually support independent media that isn't corrupted by these corporate influences like Bill Gates and his cronies, right? Like the video if you like the damn video. Subscribe for more content. All power to the people. Quick shout out to the 2 Uber comrades supporting my channel, my partner and Indie Left News. Definitely check them out. They're a great resource piece. Much love. Definitely support INN as well.